Welcome back to the Uncle You Needed. Today we're going to talk about the best piece of advice that I ever got. And, I'll jump into it, but also if you have any of your own, feel free to leave it in a comment below. I'd love to read about that. Best advice that I ever got, I'll just jump straight into it. I was about 18 or 19 years old. I was in college. When in college, I'd gone the fraternity route. And what had happened was the advice was, if you want something done, don't wait for permission. Just do it. Just make it happen. So that's the advice. The backstory to that, in the fraternity in the winter, we always had a Christmas formal party and it was actually really nice. But people would dress up in tuxes and things like that. We had it in our fraternity house. It wasn't like at a hotel ballroom or anything like a prom. And so as a result, we were responsible for kind of the theme. It wasn't really like pure decoration. It really was like a build, where we would construct all of these things for this party. Anyway, what happened my first year in, I was in no way involved in it, but meaning the production of it at that point. But what happened was we had champagne served in these champagne fountains, kind of like you'd see at a wedding. But nobody had thought to go and get the champagne beforehand. So the night of, people are pouring this champagne in, and it's warm. And so to counteract that, what some guys did was put some ice in plastic baggies and then put that down in the base of this champagne fountain, so that over time, it probably helped out and got cool. Anyway, that happened, and I just thought, man, we look like a bunch of clowns doing this, right? Because nobody had thought to get the champagne and ice it down or put it in a fridge beforehand. In any case, and the reality is nobody probably cared. I doubt anybody really remembered that. But it was one of those things that stuck with me. So I was kind of lamenting this later on to this guy. He was one of these guys that he had already graduated. I think he was in grad school, but he was he was still kind of hanging around the fraternity house, I think living there just to save some money, And so he was probably 23 years old. But one of those things where at that age, me being 18, 19, he seemed like this much older, wiser individual, even though in retrospect, of course, he was just a baby too. But he gave me that advice because I was kind of lamenting this to him. I don't even know if he was there because, he kind of aged out of all that. But his response was, I said, man, we look like clowns. He said, well, why didn't you do it? And my first response was, well, I wasn't involved with the production of the build or anything like that. So you could have done it. Well, my next response, well, I'm not 21. Because at the time I was, younger. You could have gotten someone that was 21. And every bit of that is right. Absolutely correct. There's no reason why I couldn't have done something like that to take that on my shoulders. Now, of course, the one piece of feedback there would be I didn't know that we needed that or that I had been iced down. But in any case, he's right about the premise is correct. Take it upon yourself. So a couple of things that stuck with me on that. One is that his age at the time to have that kind of advice. I think his dad was in the military and he'd kind of been raised that way. That's one thing. The second piece is that the way he was communicating it, I still remember it didn't come across as being condescending or kind of like running his mouth. He was really it was more like walking through the process, And it definitely was one of those teachable moment type things. The theme of that definitely reminds me of that Jocko Willink book, Extreme Ownership. If you haven't read it, it's worth a read, but at the same time, I could sum it up in about one sentence, and it's that you own it. Something comes up, you own it. You're something out of your control happened. Well, you were there, you own it. That kind of thing. It's that mentality, and it's really, really a very freeing mindset because when something's in your control, it allows you to do something about it versus if something is out of your control. So that's the best piece of advice that I've ever got. I did, at least back then, definitely take it forward. I was in charge of that party the next year. I guarantee you we had champagne purchased about a week in advance and it sat in the bottom of a fridge somewhere so that it was nice and cold when it came out. Also, we built this just awesome bar that I wish and somehow I managed over the years to save. Of course, it wasn't really practical, but had built this really great bar that, and like lacquered it up and, it looked like something pro because we had trim on it and everything like that too. It was a lot of fun. But in any case, good memories from that. Definitely good advice. Something I've tried to take forward. It's one of those things you won't always succeed in it, but it definitely has resonated with me over the years. I've never forgot it. And, here I am over 20 years later, and that advice is still with me. If you've got some that you'd like to share, please write it down in the comments below, and maybe just a brief background or story about that, how that affected you, what you've done with it. I think it's helpful for everybody. One other thing, so we'll go ahead and switch gears a little bit, try to leave you with something cool. This is the Chicago Athletic Association. Why I'm showing this is one of my favorite hotels. This is in Chicago, obviously. Used to travel there quite a bit for work, and always enjoyed staying here. It's a building, you can look into the history on it, but it's a building that was used as an athletic club back in the heyday, probably in the 2030s, kind of like, it says, established 1890, but I think it really came into its own during those days of like Wrigley. The guy who Wrigley chewing gum and Wrigley Field is named after. They would go and stay here, right? It was like a gentleman's or a men's club, I should say, not a gentleman's club. But anyway, men's club, and they've turned it. Several years back, they've refurbished this thing, turned it into a hotel. The branding in this is absolutely fantastic. The finish of work, just first off from like a construction rehab standpoint, is amazing, but also like the branding, if you're into marketing and all, is just freaking phenomenal. So give it a shot. Take a look on the website, and if you go to stay there, I would highly recommend it. It's right on Michigan, right across from Millennial Park by the lake. So awesome to get out and go for a jog if you're during the warm months. Of course, during the winter, it always sucks in Chicago, but the summer it's great. And then actually, I forgot about this. This is that bar on the rim. It's called Cindy's on the roof. And if you get a chance, even if you're in Chicago and you've not been, I imagine you may have, but if you've not been, go check that out too. It's just a really awesome place to go see. And then I'm going to leave you with, instead of a song recommendation today, going to leave you with a book recommendation, which is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. At the time of this recording, I think this is in 2023. I think he passed just earlier this year. He's the same guy that wrote No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers turned that into a movie in 2007. And, awesome book. And the film was very good too, which basically is the book word for word. After seeing that, I went back and read this book, Blood Meridian. Excellently written. It's one of the most violent books I've ever read. And I don't turn off films easily or anything like that, but man, it's just, there's definitely a lot of that in there. I'm not going to go into the plot too much just because there's too much to take in, but excellent writing. Go read some reviews on it. You can see the rating on it is high, and there's a ton of ratings there anyway, but I would highly recommend it if you get the opportunity to. One thing I would do, I actually read this on Kindle, but for some reason, I found that over time I do better just with a paperback book or a hardback, but actually a physical, tangible book rather than the digital stuff. Maybe some of you are like that too. It seems to do better if I have some tactile to hold on to, but it's a good book and definitely recommend it. This is one that I don't know how they would have turned that into a film like they did No Country for Old Men. They would have had to probably, clever editing, because it's just, like I said, there's a lot of violence in it, and I'm not sure how they would have portrayed that on the big screen. Anyway, so we'll wrap up there. The best advice was don't wait for permission. If you want something done, go do it. Something cool was the Chicago Athletic Association in downtown Chicago. And then the book recommendation today is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. Have an awesome day. Talk soon.